morning, Virginia. This is Martha Boneta, and I am your guest host this morning for the John Fredericks Show. You are listening to the John Fredericks Show. John is somewhere right now, probably with his toes in the sand, and I am here with you to give you what is hot in Virginia politics, policy, and our nation. We are here live in the studio in Chesapeake, and we have your next guest on the line, and you all know him as Denver Riggleman. Denver Riggleman shook up Virginia politics when he recently ran for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. He is a veteran of our great nation. He served our country, sacrificed and served our country, and fought the bad guys. And now, not only that, he's an entrepreneur, fought the bad guys, served our country, and he makes whiskey, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful combination. Fought the bad guys, defended our nation, and now he makes some of the greatest whiskey in the world. Isn't that right, Denver Riggleman? My friend Denver Riggleman on the show this morning. We are going to be talking explosives, liquor, and the Senate race. The Senate race against Tim Kaine here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. No one better to talk about that than my dear friend Denver Riggleman.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I don't have any of that world-famous whiskey in my Earl Grey black tea this morning as I sit on my porch looking at the beautiful vista in front of me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I understand that you have already announced that you are going to run for governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia next time around.
I did. I sure did, Martha. I think this time I'm going to have 4 years to prepare, and I'm going to do it, and I'm sure there's going to be incredible people who pop up who want to run for governor too, but that's why I don't like, when I started into this, I didn't want to run for office, for every chance that I got. I wanted to do it because I love my state, and I'm going to give it a shot. No pun intended. But that's what I'm going to do.
Well, you shook up the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. Boy, you created a statewide swell of support. There are folks that know you and love you from every corner of the Commonwealth, and I'm so blessed to know you as well. You bring energy, you bring passion, and thrilled to have you on the show. So, 64 new laws that came into effect on July 1st here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you know what? Most Virginians have no idea. It's not like we had enough laws. We had to add 64 new ones. But there are a few surprising ones that came to light, and a lot of folks weren't even aware of it. Who knew that Everclear, which is a 151% proof clear grain alcohol, is now going to be allowed to be carried in liquor stores? Now, most other states across our great nation already allow Everclear to be sold, but not Virginia until now. And I don't know the history behind that, but one would think, the Commonwealth, we love our wineries, we love our breweries, we love our cideries, that this wouldn't be an issue, but apparently it was, and now it's going to be available. What say you?
Well, I think anything where, you're free to do what you need to do is a good thing for distilleries. I think it's great. But what's funny, Martha, is that, I've been in a bit of war with the beer manufacturers lobby for a long time. Uh-huh. And it's so funny. I think you're in my head. Before I even go into that, 64, 65 new laws. Why don't we have 65 laws that retract old laws? So, I think people would be happier 0 laws were passed right now. The amount of laws passed. And here's... Limited governor, you were in my head when you said that, by the way, because you're probably like, 65 laws that really don't do anything but add more stuff to what we have to worry about, right? And so anyway, I just wanted to get...
No, you brought up an excellent point. You brought up an excellent point.
Number 2, the 151 proof. When I was fighting the legislature last year so that distilleries could have unlimited pours like beer, wine, and cider, and we have the same laws of beer, wine, or ciders, we've talked many times distilleries are held down by the legislature because sometimes the legislature is the best subsidiary that a money can buy for any of these companies that are lobbying for them. I got told by one of the delegates there, he goes, it's irresponsible if you do more than 3 ounces because, somebody is drunk after 4 ounces per hour at 180-pound body weight. And I said, well, beer, wine, and cider unlimited. How you know what? They can do whatever they want. Why can't we do whatever we want? He goes, well, it's just irresponsible. So I find it very funny, Martha, that now they passed a law where we can sell 151 proof liquor out of our distilleries or out of liquor stores after I was told that selling more than 2 ounces of liquor was irresponsible. So for me, you know, it is about who's out there lobbying and who wants to get the money. But you know what? For 151 proof liquor, for Silverback Distillery, we're going to make it. We love it. We can go up to 190 proof and make vodka, so we're happy with it.
That's fantastic. And you know, here's something that I want to talk about with you. It's safe and legal when you cross the border of Virginia, but somehow when you come into Virginia, it's no longer safe. Think about that.
Well, exactly. You know, Virginia's a bubble. It's a lobbyist and politician's dream, Virginia, right now. And I think that's why I ran.
Yeah.
You said something why I was popular is because I was talking about, you know, regulatory audits or rigorous forensic audits, cut spending, you know, all the things that people wanted to hear about. You know, that's what I did, and I think that's what people want now. Is they want limited government. 65 new laws, great. If the most important of those is 151 proof liquor, that's fine.
Yeah.
But reading some of the other ones, Martha, you get to the point you just shake your head like, this is the most they can do. Let's just get rid of some stuff. Enough of this.
You're right. And I've got Emily Brewer. She's going to be the youngest Republican woman in the Virginia General Assembly. And here's a message I want to give to all legislators and all candidates out there. Just because you're an elected official, just because you're in the General Assembly, that doesn't mean you have to pass a law. I mean, just because you're there, that doesn't mean you have to come up with a new law to create every General Assembly session. Why not get rid of the archaic ones, the ones that are burdensome, that the miles and miles of red tape that are interfering with entrepreneurialism in Virginia, that are preventing businesses from thriving, from growing, from having more employees, from creating more jobs. Why not focus on getting rid of those instead of feeling the urge and the need to create new laws? Isn't that right, Emily?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, Jennifer, good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Emily. I didn't know you were on.
Yeah, I am. Voice. Yes, I'm hanging out in the studio this morning with Martha. So I got a question for you, actually. So hashtag Whiskey Rebellion, by the way. I love it. It was so much fun to watch you in your campaign. Tell me this. Why do you think, and this is a deep question, but why do you think that your campaign resonated with so many people across Virginia?
My goodness, we're going to get philosophical here.
I know. First thing in the morning.
I think the reason, Emily, it did is because somebody came up who actually works for a living. You know, I even had a day job when I was running. But I think when people saw that it was somebody who was going to help small business owners, somebody who's been at war for 3 years. And, you know, Emily, it was also Dominion. You know, they were trying to run the pipeline through here. I was fighting property rights issues. We were fighting against DEQ at the time, trying to make us do things on a farm property that I thought were, and Martha and me had this discussion at length. And about the regulatory issues I'd faced with the lobbies and being threatened by them. I was running for a reason. And I think what we're missing with candidates is why are they running? And for me, it was anger. For me, it was the fact I was a Virginian, Emily, and it was also, I believe I had some pretty good ideas to limit government and to help our economy. And I've been doing this a long time, being an entrepreneur, and I think it also resonated with people because I wasn't afraid to tell the truth. I didn't have a whole lot of talking points. I've learned that's a bad thing, Emily. But I got out there and told them what I felt, no matter what, and I told the truth. And I think if people have somebody who tells the truth, they're barely smart enough to get things done, they have some ideas that actually work, and they're about limiting government, I think that resonates with everybody as far as a liberty message. And I think that's why we did okay, you know, with the limited funds that we had at the time.
Denver, we're going to open up the phone lines this morning. Friends listening, go ahead and call in. We've got Denver Riggleman. We're talking explosives, liquor, and the Senate race against Tim Kaine. Call in to 757-454-1650, 757-454-1650. This is Martha Boneta, guest hosting the John Fredericks Show live here at the studio in beautiful Chesapeake, Virginia. So before we go any further, Denver, what rumors are you hearing about who's going to run for Senate against Tim Kaine?
Well, you know, we saw some of the blogs and stuff like that. I think Emily's running, right? She'll be the youngest senator in the history of Virginia.
Don't put that evil on me.
You know, we have Carly Fiorina, Laura Ingraham, Jim Gilmore, goodness gracious, Pete Snyder, who else? Corey, obviously, Corey Stewart's out there, you know, thumping his chest, which is great. And then we have, you know, we've heard rumblings of Nick Freitas out there, you know, with the draft Nick stuff. And
that's right.
Fortunately, I get calls on a lot of this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, have phone calls who asked if I was going to run or not. And as you know, being senator right now is not something that I don't know if I could do effectively. So for me, I'm looking at 2021 and working for a living right now and getting ready for that. But I've heard a lot of rumors, Martha, and even heard a rumor about you. I love to surprise you sometimes. I heard that rumor yesterday,
too.
I
always have, every so often I have to post something on my social media that says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am not running for office." It's not happening. I'm honored and I'm humbled that you would suggest such a thing, but it's not going to happen. And besides, I need to make sure that here in the Commonwealth we get to have pyrotechnics, big boom fireworks like they do in West Virginia, Tennessee, and other states all across the nation. And I get back to this, Denver, which is, what is it about Virginia that when you come into Virginia, when you cross the line and come into Virginia, all of a sudden things are unsafe? But as soon as you leave Virginia, they're safe for millions and millions of Americans all across our nation. And that seems to be the case with fireworks as well. What are your thoughts about that?
And I think Ed was having a bit of fun with, announcing right before the 4th of July, about his policy with fireworks and things like that. But I am hoping it gets into the meat of things, the regulatory issues. But I think fireworks is also symbolic in this way. And I don't think he got the message out. I think it's even a little bit more important is that it's a liberty message. And, truckers call this the communist state as soon as they cross the border. And it's funny that the first colony, Virginia, is called the communist state by people who drive trucks, based on the regulatory issues that they face. But, I think it's time that maybe things that are a little bit unsafe are okay. With freedom comes a little bit of chaos. I believe that all of us, when we pick to live, or when we're in a free society, we allow live and let live. And if people want to be a little bit dangerous with themselves, that's what they get to do. But fireworks, not only is it an economic message, it's a liberty message, but I do think we need to move on from that as soon as July 4th is over and get some policy points out there for limiting government and helping the economy in other ways with reduced spending, taxes, and things of that nature. I can't wait for that to come out, but I do think Ed was having a bit of fun, announcing that before July 4th.
Sure, no, of course. Well, it's interesting, all the polls are wrong, all of them. And we're in the Trump era. The polls were wrong leading for the presidential election. The polls have been wrong across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We saw that in the primary. And it's because we are in the Trump era. And the pollsters don't know what to do. They're pulling their hair out. They can't get it right. They just cannot get it right. And that's because, they're not polling the right people. They don't have their fingers on the pulse of our great nation. And, the American people have had it. And we're seeing it in the polls. We're seeing it in the elections. And what's happening is, we've been overregulated to death. We've been micromanaged, overregulated to death. We, the American people, and I always say this on every show I host or I'm a guest on, we, the people, are not truly free unless government is limited. And we're seeing the American people push back, and they're doing it at the polls, and we're seeing it happen all across our great nation. We're seeing it happen here in the Commonwealth. And, here in Virginia, we've been regulated to death. It is outrageous and unacceptable that it is so hard to start a business here in the Commonwealth. It is unacceptable that we've dropped to, what is it, number 15 in the nation?
Oh, absolutely. And something about polling, though, is polling has gone into the toilet. And when Gallup got out of the business in polling, that should have told us everything we needed to know, because they were the gold standard in polling. They're out of the business.
Oh, absolutely. And these pollsters, they aren't out there in talking to the grassroots folks, talking to the hardworking everyday Americans that are just trying to make a living. They're struggling. They've got mortgages to pay, rent to pay. They're trying to get braces on their kids' teeth. They're trying to put gas in their car. They're just trying to survive. They're wondering where their next meal's going to come from. Those are the folks that our elected and our candidates need to be speaking to, because they're the ones that are coming out in record numbers to the polls. They're the ones that are determining the future of Virginia and our great nation. And they're the ones that our elected need to speak to. Because guess what? A lot of these consultants on these campaigns, they just talk to each other. They're not talking to the hardworking, everyday Americans that are struggling just to survive.
In an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the echo chamber, for the first time running. I think Emily just said echo chamber. It's pretty amazing to me, because if you actually go out and go door to door, I think I was listening to Emily earlier. She's talking about doing the hard stuff, walking down the road, knocking on doors. That's awkward, sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I think when you start talking to people to their face, eyeball to eyeball, you realize the polling is pretty hit or miss. Not only that, I believe the polling was probably pretty wrong on our last primary, right? 18%, I think they had Corey at the highest polls, and what did he pull, right? He almost beat it. So I believe that there's a lot of variance in polling, and I don't pay much attention to it. I don't think anybody does much. I don't know about you all, but I think maybe Martha, you're right. Maybe those that are running campaigns pay attention to polling and then push people to spend money where they need to spend money. But on the other hand, most people are like, they shrug their shoulders,
right.
Whatever. We're going to vote how we're going to vote.
This is Martha Boneta, guest hosting the John Fredericks Show. We are here live in Chesapeake, Virginia, in the studio. I have Emily Brewer right next to me. She's going to be the youngest GOP woman elected to the Virginia General Assembly, the oldest legislative body in our great nation. And we have Denver Riggleman of #Whiskey Rebellion on the line with us. And we are discussing politics. We're discussing what is hot right now in Virginia. We're talking about some of the 64 new bills that became law on July 1st because we don't have enough laws in Virginia. And we are taking your calls right now. Give us a call. You can ask Denver, Emily, or myself questions, and we will answer them here live on the air. Dial-in number is area code 757-454-1650, and we look forward to hearing from you here on the John Fredericks Show. This is Martha Boneta, your guest host. We've got Denver Riggleman on the line. Denver, let me ask you this. As you traveled around the state, as you talked to hardworking Virginians, what were the top 3 issues that they told you mattered to them the most? And by the way, we only have 4 seconds. 5 minutes to go, so we've got to get this out.
4 seconds. I was God, I got to
5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to go.
Okay. The 3 top issues. I think. Goodness gracious, there were so many.
Well, jobs. I mean, seriously, economic opportunity. We used to be. Virginia used to be one of the top states in the nation for jobs and growth, and we dropped to 15. It's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
It is, and I think economic opportunity, but the thing that I got, and I think people knew why I was running, so it might be that it was slanted a little bit when I was talking, and the first thing was regulatory issues and burdens that people faced. I hit private property rights were huge everywhere I went. And you got to remember, I wasn't in Northern Virginia as much when I started, even though I did go there a few times. But it was about economic opportunity and the regulatory burden that people face. It was about private property rights.
That's right.
It was a lot about Second Amendment. I tell you, I'm a Second Amendment guy, but the number of questions I got on Second Amendment were fantastic. And usually it went like this, Martha and Emily. This is how it went. Denver, are you for constitutional carry? And if not, what are the issues that you see that are facing us right now with the Second Amendment in Virginia? Are you okay with guns and things like that? And really it would just be yes and yes.
Right.
Simple, answer. Well, so do you have any qualms? Nope, we're good. And I think that's another thing, right? And I think Emily's seen this too. If you just answer people straight and simple and not beat around the bush on all this stuff, I think you're going to be very effective.
Well, Donald Trump is a prime example of that. Answering yes or no questions with yes or no, I think is refreshing. And so those were really the 3 top things: is economic opportunity, property rights, and Second Amendment. But some of the side issues obviously were abortion, some other side issues. But I tried to concentrate on economic issues more than anything. I know social issues can be very divisive, and I know that people get a little worried about them. But for me, it's that we're living in a state right now where we're being crushed by regulatory issues and by tax burden and by, no kidding, you get killed by a million cuts in Virginia at local government. I think those are the things we need to worry about right now is let's get Virginia back on its feet. And as you said, Martha, we've dropped out of the top 10, and it's just going to keep plummeting unless we do something. And I believe that drop in economic opportunity in Virginia probably coincides with who's in the governor's mansion right now. Absolutely.
So that's something we got to fix.
Well, and speaking of property rights, we all know this to be true. Freedom stands on the shoulders of property rights. It truly does. And freedom and property rights are inseparable. And when I travel around the country speaking, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on. Property rights is the one issue where it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're an independent, you're a libertarian, you're undecided, whatever you are. When property rights are near and dear to all of our hearts. Because that's the one place, when you go home, that's the one place that's supposed to be a safe haven where you're not going to be, regulated to death or harassed or, that's supposed to be your safe haven.
When you buy a home, that is your little slice of heaven. That is yours. all yours, and people understand it. It resonates with them, and that's how they feel. That is theirs, and that's why people are so strong about property rights.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And
Well,
Denver,
what
you
was
know
it?
that
Life,
to be
liberty,
true.
And it's life, the pursuit of happiness,
Yes,
right? Life, liberty,
yes.
and pursuit of happiness. It was property.
Yes,
Thomas
it
Jefferson
was.
and James Madison, when they were talking about the taking clause in the Fifth Amendment, they had to come to an issue where private property could only be taken for public use, right? And they were really worried about it. And that's why property was so important to the founders. And I think Virginia is having a tough time, living up to that.
Thank you,
If we have a
Denver.
constitutional amendment where we have laws that protect property, but it seems that Dominion Power is the only one that are not, held to that standard, or they've been explicitly left out of that clause so that they can do what they want.
And Denver,
People
we
get
have
angry.
we have to take a break now. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Denver Riggleman, thank you for being on our show. I look forward to seeing you soon, and everybody can go and see you at your distillery, right?
Yes, they can. And Emily and Martha, this morning when you're drinking your coffee, try not to add any type of liquor or anything like that to it, because it could make the show a lot more crazy. So I just want to warn you guys about that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Denver.
We look forward to having you on the show again soon.
You all take care. Thanks.
Denver
Bye-bye.
Riggleman, ladies and gentlemen, this is Martha Boneta, your guest host this morning on the John Fredericks Show.